Okay, it is 3:30 or 4:30. On Wednesday, November 20th, I will call the Planning, Property and Legislative Committee meeting to order. Roll call, we have a quorum, so everyone is here. I will make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
That's motioned and seconded to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So motion, the agenda is approved. Also a motion to approve the minutes from the April 23rd, 2024 meeting.
Second.
And seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion is also carried. Any public comments on the agenda items? Do we have anybody?
No, sir.
No. Anybody in this room? I do not have any chairperson comments. Update on the sales completion of the 140 Market Avenue. Ben, do you wanna?
Sure, so in your packet, you guys will see. The Gaui Abstract Title Company closing seller sheet. So everything has been finalized with the sale. Utilities have been put in the new owners' names. After it was all done, obviously you guys see the breakdown to the seller. Which was 54,329.40, which that money obviously goes back in the TIF association because that is where the purchase of that property originally was taken out of. And obviously any of the maintenance or update grades to that property was taken out of the TIF. We will also at the end of the year be doing a journal entry for past administrators, my time, Diane's time to get this agreement, everything together for Gaui. We will also, the TIP will make a reimbursement back to the village to cover that time for doing that work. So that if there's any questions or concerns, I guess on that, let me know.
Any questions?
No.
Okay. Next agenda item, update on the 160 Market Avenue property.
I was asked by you guys to see if Nick could supply us with the paperwork that was recorded for serving those raised order documents to the owner. And unfortunately, I just got off the phone with him here and he's working with, he called it a service professional company who they use in Oklahoma to deliver all of certified mail and documents that are to that high level. And he's waiting for them to get a confirmation email from them and he will send it back to us. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. And he did say that obviously once the paperwork has been signed and certified, that 30 days, what his recommendation would be for us to bring up another conversation of what the next step would be with that property. So he sent the paperwork to them. He's waiting for them to get the paperwork to us at what day it was handed to the owners. And as soon as I get that, I will send that to you guys.
Okay, thank you. Any comments?
I did include the raise order for you. For anybody that didn't see it, I did include that in the packet if anybody had any questions or concerns about the actual raise order paperwork.
It was sent out on October 28th. That's the date of the raise order. Do you have a date that it was sent out?
I signed this and sent it right back to Nick and it's in Nick's hands, so I've been chasing Nick trying to get an update and I did get one. Like I said, I just took a phone call a couple minutes ago, so
Okay.
I told him as soon as he gets that, give us a timeline date so that I can present it to the committee.
Thank you. Any comments? Next agenda item, update on the CyberOne TIF loan. In your packet, you'll see the information you want.
Yeah, so obviously this is, I include a lot of information, new board members, or new committee members that haven't probably seen the full agreement. This is the agreement that was put back in place back in 2017. The village board went in agreement with CyberOne to help them out to be able to get their company jump started, I guess. And Eric will probably have some information because he was also on board this time. We helped them out, which I did show you the timeline or their expenses, what they were looking for at the time, it was a generator and all the things, that they came here to the village and asked them to, give them a loan to help purchase this, out of the tip. Obviously, this came out of the tip, not out of the general fund. And this agreement was obviously written up, signed by Nick and other attorneys that, make sure it's official. And obviously, over the way, when you get into the financials of it, it's been a bumpy road. Shame on us, shame on everybody. I worked on this a couple of years ago in between administrators, to try to work with the owners of this company, try to get them back on track. And then, I think after I left, we had COVID and there was a forgiveness given from the board that voted on to give them a, forgiveness of payments. For I believe it was nine months, right? Which is written in their, side note.
Yep.
And then after that, they kind of got back on track. Earlier this summer, I had a meeting with them. At that point, if you remember, out in front of their building, they had the brick that was falling out of there. We had some issues. And try to work with him. Hey, let's get this fixed. Can you raise up instead of the $1,500, $2,000? We gotta try to get back on track of your payments. And if you do look at it, and again, spotty, there's some $2,000 payments, 5/124, 6/10. Of course, after I sent this email and this reply, we got a $2,000 payment yesterday from them. That doesn't change anything. I had a good talk with Jamie. I said that I was obviously, the board, the committee, I was bringing this up to the committee because they asked me to, and I think it's important they're updated on it. I said, so you better give me some kind of, paragraph or a sentence, pleading your case. I said, and we'll leave it up to them. I said, obviously you've read the contract, we could do legal things, we could charge interest, we could go after the buildings, there's a lot of things we could do. I did not bring it up with Nick at all. Guess that's up to you guys what you want to do. My biggest concern is, and you guys can have a great discussion on, is if we get too hard on this and he walks away, the village ends up with another building. That we have to figure out what to do with. But again, that's you guys.
Discussion?
Yeah,
Um,
I don't have the 20. I think I'm missing a sheet in there. When was the last payment that they?
it's handwritten in the
They're in the bottom here.
bottom.
But they just brought it, they just brought it today after they were sent to you guys,
So the
so.
last payment was 6/10/24?
I believe so.
Yes.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so I have a couple issues. So one, well, not an issue, but one being Nick App was the person the attorney that signed all this. And for some reason, when Boz was here, or whatever, not to throw him under the bus at all, we have no teeth in our contract. But reading the contract, it's no different than any other contract that has had teeth in the past. Jamie's letter, whatever, if this was our house, this was your house, the bank wouldn't even have given us enough time to do what we've allowed them to do. To give a 9-month, no payment, this, that, and whatever. If we look at this correctly, they're current to December 1st of 21. So they're 3 years behind.
2 years and 6 months. It's exact, but yes, yes, you are correct.
Over any
Yeah.
time that Paper Cities would allow me to stay at my house. I know they're making money over there. I know that there's a board member that was on this board at one point that does business over there. So I know that they're making money. $2,000 or whatever, $1,500 a month for their loan payment is nothing astronomical. I've been in the boat years and years ago when I was young and dumb, not paying my mortgage on time, the guy calling, not answering the phone. This is a business. They have revenue coming in and they're 3 years behind. We gave them a 9-month forbearance and then they made a few payments and it took just me asking a question a couple months ago, or a couple weeks ago, and you got another $2,000 check. I don't know what the revenues are. That's not my business. $1,500, I don't think is, I mean, they were happy to go into the loan. And if you look at the loan, the first 2 years, they didn't even have to make a payment. So they've only been making payments for 2.5 years or 3 years. So by saying that, also reading Jamie's letter, there are a couple things on default written in the contract. And I don't want any ill will to them because they've been here, but
Held accountable.
correct, absolutely. No different than we would ask for anybody else that we employ or do services with. But Article 6, the first paragraph, A1, says failure to perform any material obligation on this agreement under the mortgage within 10 days after receipt or written notice thereof. The determination of that constitutes a material breach pursuant to the subsection shall be made by the Board of Trustees at a closed session, blah, blah, blah. Common language. So right there, the default is available if we so choose. The other thing too about Jamie's letter is him talking about Rich getting out of it. That's his personal business. Jamie and Rich were the ones that went into the contract, and I don't even know what. I got page 13, whatever that is. Paragraph E, no partnership or joint venture. And in there, it says no person or entity that is not a party to this agreement may rely upon any such intentions, affirmations, authorizations, or agreements, and any such reliance or purported reliance as a third-party beneficiary to this agreement. Blah, 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 blah. That could be changed, but now we're only dealing with Jamie as this document is created now. Virgil, and I know Virgil's the local, I think it's Virgil, right? He's the local guy that's been here. We had to fire inspect, and that's the one that I dealt with or whatever. I have no issue with him. He's actually here. We actually see him. So I have no issue with that. But as per the black and white, Jamie is still the only person that if Rich is getting out, that's his business, but Jamie is the only one that we can contact or do business unless the contract is changed, and that would be a board decision. So boiling all that down, you know, it's strike one, strike two, strike three. You know, shame on you, shame on me, whatever, or however they say that. Either we give them a time limit to make it current, and then we're good, or whatever the next steps of the board wishes, you know. This is no different than other properties that we've had to deal with over here. And I think we have a backbone. We have to stand up for the village residents and what was agreed with. That they signed it. They read it, their attorney signed it.
So is it still valid when just Virgil is, who signed this?
It was Jamie, I think, that signed it.
Well, she has a personal guarantee.
Oh, no, actually, we don't have that page. Joe and
Uh,
Diane's.
Item K here on page 6. An individual signing an agreement on behalf of Cyber One agree to personally, jointly, and severely liable for all financial obligations and into pursuit of the agreement to be subject to the same terms and conditions described in such agreement. So she's personally liable. I would also refer,
Yeah, go ahead.
refer you to J right above it, where have we inspected their financial records? We're allowed to do that, and if they're making money, I think we ought to do that because we could help understand what's realistic, and if we go with, here's the plan in the next X number of months to make up for that, it'd be really nice to know what is their financial situation, and we can do that. Says we can do that. So I would highly recommend, I don't know where in the process it would be, but I highly recommend that we look at their financial records and see. I have a problem with the person's letter because this is an IT company. And I can't tell you how many times, at least a half dozen times where things are slow. It's gonna take us time. That's not the IT world, right? You can't be slow there. We're gonna do AI, we're gonna do it slowly.
Yeah.
Too late, my friend. You've got to be on top of that stuff. So it doesn't bode for me like, hey, how do I want to say it? I'm either not very sophisticated in terms of being a business person or Maybe we've let this go along long enough that they think, hey, they'll string it out. It's got a longer tail than what it is right now. And I'm just saying, I think we ought to call into question how long the tail is.
Yeah, my intention of bringing this up was just, we're getting serious now.
I'd like recommendations and I can, if you know, what you guys would like, and I can go back to him and he can come here with records, or we can invite him to a meeting for sure.
Do you have this documented in the minutes, the discussion from
Mhm.
Eric? And it's valuable.
Mhm.
Because what we
Yep.
need to do is come up with a game plan out of this committee, what we want to do. And I encourage this discussion and I'm looking forward to something coming out of it where we can put some teeth to it based upon this contract. So I think we should do those things. We should try to get them back on track and use the contract to our advantage to help do that. So one is if it's still valid with the current individuals, and I'm hearing that's yes, then we need to try to get them back on track, like Eric's saying. And what are our avenues? The inspection of their financial records would be a good thing in my mind, because then we can get kind of an earshot into, they have the money available, they don't have the money, then we can take the next steps.
And that goes both ways, you know, if they're bringing in less revenue, then we can understand that.
Correct.
If they're bringing more revenue,
Absolutely.
then it's needs and wants.
Yeah, what are you doing with your revenue? Is the
Yeah.
Uber question. And what bills are you paying and what bills aren't you paying, if that's it, but anyway.
So do we need to have a recommendation or a motion out of this? I'm not looking at you.
We
President.
should have a recommendation. I guess my recommendation would be go back to them and be like, what is, convey this conversation, what is what do they think is a realistic way to catch up and
To get back on track.
to get back on track and ask for the financial records all at once?
I think we did that already. We let them dictate what is, and they asked for 9 months, we gave them 9 months.
Right, but I'm just saying,
Right now, we
what-
say 30 days, you give us, we need this,
You wanna
this
go
and
to
this. by
30 days and just-
Whatever that number,
We'll get a loan.
refinance, whatever.
Yeah. That's the real business world.
You guys give me a direction. Obviously I'll ask them for the financial reports. And which will include revenue,
Or-
bill paying, things like that. We would like to see those and I'll highlight
It
that
would be-
section of that.
maybe asking for a realistic, but be like, what is your plan? What is a realistic plan for you to catch up? Like, cause we know that there's not gonna be a check made tomorrow. I mean, there could be, I guess.
We have to set up,
But-
you have to give me a price and a deadline, otherwise I'm telling you.
Right, like if it-
They're gonna keep dragging it and that's up to you guys. That's
The
what-
other option would be to say, and we're gonna sit down with you and craft what that looks like. If they've done this before, here's what'll happen. It won't be said, everything's slow. It won't be satisfactory. So let's
Well,
just
right.
save a step and say, let's sit down together and craft a plan. So that we're part of that up front, as opposed to waiting to say, oh, no, that's too long. Cause that's what's gonna happen. Right?
We do need to follow the contract, though, in the
Right.
inspection of financial records. It says on or before March first of each calendar year for the duration of this agreement, Cyber One shall deliver or cause to be delivered to the village a complete financial statement of Cyber One's business for the previous year for confidential inspection by Rob Sigler of Nakusa Port Edward State Bank or other third party. So it goes to him.
So maybe first step is asking Rob if that's happening.
Yes, because we can't just go and ask for it. We've
Right.
got to follow the contract.
But
Or the way
just
it's-
asking if that's even being done.
So we need to put some teeth into that and ask for that.
What page is that on there?
Jack,
Page 6.
Under J,
that's the one that Eric pointed out.
So do we have to ask for that, or every March 1st? They
On or before, so you could ask, you
Should
could
be
ask for
doing it.
this year and then
so like the
Next year,
big
you
question
could
will be if
ask
they're not
again.
doing it,
in 3-4 months.
They're in violation.
they're in violation.
I
right?
guess too, what I'd ask Rob Ziegler as a bank person, it would be helpful if he gave his point of view on how to look at this.
So and I have no problem with
After he
Jamie
sees the financials.
confronting Jamie of that. And again, this is what it is, Jamie. And
He knows.
so, this is the village's next step is to get a hold of Rob and looking for this paper. I mean, there's nothing
We,
to hide. It's in there.
we expect it by March first.
No,
Well,
we
we
don't.
expect last
actually,
year.
we
We
but-
did actually have a backlog.
Yeah,
Should have a backlog. So
absolutely.
I guess the
Yeah,
what I would ask is to reach out to Rob and ask for him to review those records. If we do not have those records, then we have another issue. If he does, just let us know. I mean, I don't know if we can physically watch it, but a third party could maybe.
Yeah.
And we could take the recommendation of Ben, and see if there is funds there to pay their mortgage. And if there is, then I think something's gonna have to be rewritten in the contract,
Yes.
or it needs to be like a refinance where you have until 2027 to pay for those, and your 1,500 now is 3,200 or whatever it is to meet those deadlines.
You have to complete it by the end of the contract.
Yeah. And I think all this is done. I don't know any of these people, but we're actually trying to help Jamie be a business person.
Yeah.
And because
Yeah.
it's not working.
Our goal is to keep them in business.
Yeah, exactly.
We need to get paid.
We gave him a 0% loan out of the TIF.
And that's
So that was a pretty good gig.
absolutely, 100% agree with that.
I'll work with Rob and I will get you guys an email. Hopefully end of this week with Rob, where they're at, and then, we'll move it, make sure, if it's not there, if the paperwork is not there, I'm gonna ask Rob to just to perform it. And meanwhile, I can check with, it depends on Rob is, and I can also check with Nick to see the backlog, how that works, I guess, if there's no backlog.
Would a third party, I guess not really be Nick, like, could he look at it and be that third, be like, yeah, this is realistic or not?
It's gotta be mutually agreed upon. It could be.
Well, if Rob's name is on there, we'll just ask.
Yeah.
And see if we could mutually, they agree to Rob.
So we're clear on the direction.
Rob was on the board when this contract happened. So
Oh, okay.
So I'll reach out to him and then,
Good, yeah, I'd be real.
And I'm gonna put it on for future agenda items, Cyber One update, so we can keep this in front of us.
absolutely.
Good
If
discussion.
there's any other paperwork you guys want,
Very
let
good
me,
discussion.
let me know, but you do have, he's got the
Thank you.
contract.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your input. Update on DMI demo permit.
So I've been trying to get hold of Joe Moore, and by golly, today at 1:30, Joe Moore answered his phone. And I just basically asked Joe, we have a pit meeting tonight looking for an update, and of course, I've got the Joe Moore reply, we're working with Jewel on the PUD development plan. You guys should have that next week. The contractor, he was there, we had to make a change because of, this and that, the same Joe Moore stuff. And all I said, in nice terms to Joe, I said, that come January 1st, that is when the board made the motion to accept the demo. Anything after that would have to be brought back up again. And meanwhile, I'm collecting data to, from everything that's gone on, from the Vanderwall, from the DNR side, everything we have to basically come to the board with a presentation. And in simple terms, we have to change what we're doing now, because we're spending a lot of money and we're not getting any results from either one side of this, Vanderwall or DMI. And I said, we're not having any Thursday meetings until you have paperwork that is sent to me that has legal documentation. We're not bringing Vanderwall in for a Thursday conversation for $700 that we don't even have anything to talk about. And Joe gave his usual, okay, buddy, I'm working on it. And I said, Joe, this is you and I, we're on the phone. And I said, I'm not gonna be the nice guy and play. I said, we have to come up with a plan. And I said, in or out, we're gonna make some decisions after January 1st, because that's when this motion has been approved. And again, we all can sit here and have the ideas and we're all thinking the same thing. But at this point, we're not wasting any money with meetings and paperwork till we see something hardcore come here. And I'm working on getting information for you guys. So after January 1st, he comes for an extension. You guys obviously will make that decision or whatever, but as of right now, there is no January 1st is his last day to come up with all the paperwork for the demo permit. But in simple terms, nothing has changed in the last 4 months as this demo permit gets closer to the end. And it's times are clicking, and I don't think they can physically come up with all the paperwork and documents they need with the holidays in less than 37 days.
they had 10 years to do it.
Agree, 100%, like I said. So I guess to let you guys know, I'm kind of being strict with Vanderwall and him. gonna call Scott tomorrow and tell him the same thing, like, there's no meetings until somebody sends me a documentation of the 10 criteria for the demo permit that is completed.
Have they made progress on any of the 10?
Absolutely not.
Okay,
I do have a question.
go ahead.
These PUDs. We've been approving PUDs for 10 years. I don't care about the PUDs. You know, make some movement.
Yeah.
Don't hide behind the PUDs. Don't hide behind Jewel. We've heard it a million times from that organization that so-and-so's not there anymore. So-and-so, this contractor, that contractor.
I asked for the name of the contractor today and he wouldn't give it to me. So that was, the tall tale. I said, who's the contractor? Oh, yeah, you know, so when he told me that, it means
Excuse as always.
a contractor is lined up if this is gonna get signed.
Second question, well, that was more mistake. The first question is, now the TIFA's projects are signed. It's not a free pot to be dipping in anymore. That's where Vanderwall's money comes from. What happens? We don't have the money to pay Vanderwall out of any budget, general fund, whatever, because we can't dip into that.
So the TIF was, if you remember, we did our TIF plan to our board, to our TIF board. We did put every year, we put Vanderwall and Associates and Abs legal fee, up to 45,000 to use for TIF projects, which that is still okayed. So unfortunately, again, we gotta be very careful with what we spend out, when we do the projects. We put that in there just in case something was wrong and we needed, but I'm not going.
Ultimately, we hold the purse strings.
Yes, I'm not gonna spend any of this unless I bring it to you guys for authorization. I'm telling you, for the next 2 months, unless there's paperwork. I haven't talked to Vanderwall. I don't expect any bills because we haven't had a meetings, and I'm gonna verify that tomorrow after I talk to Joe today. So unless you guys have different thoughts, but my personal opinion is that there's nothing for Vanderwall to do until we see paperwork.
I
moving
agree
forward.
with that, right? And I'll leave it up to the other two committee members.
We're done planning. You know, you can plan and do studies and all this stuff. All that money is not spent wisely unless we can put those plans to the ground. So let's demo it. Let's figure that piece out first. And I think there's gonna be some conversations that company is not gonna like. And they've heard it before, but then they duck and dive. But that's step one. Let's not spend any money planning and naming streets and doing all that stuff before you can't paint a picture without having the paper or
I
or whatever to put it on.
The first step in this process, my feeling, is the demo permitting, start the demo, and then we can start using Vanderwall, but then the next step on that too is the grant that we got approval for. But that really hinges on whether we get the demo permit gets actually applied.
Yeah, I'm gonna work with Wood County and tell them that grant will be a discussion for start of January 2025.
We've got to determine where we want to do that, because that does lay into that whole property south of the YMCA, basically, including the YMCA in that picture. So I agree with you. So anything, Eric, from your,
I'd just be piling on.
okay,
I do think it wouldn't hurt. I mean, I think you're doing that. So I appreciate the directness. And make sure that Juveniles, the board is done playing with this, and please don't call me buddy, because that's what you call a dog.
Yeah.
anything else? Next agenda item, update on the DNR phone call.
So last week, Friday, I reached out, I got some good email from trustee Humblestent, why don't we use the green, I think it was a brownfield grant, different things. So I reached out to the DNR representatives, and set up a Friday, phone meeting. Trustee, Hess was here with us, basically brought in, a lot of different people, brought in, somebody talked about the land, I had 3 agendas I really wanted. The first one is I've been looking for this piece of paper that I've heard for years that this site is clear and free from the DNR and they can just start demoing tomorrow. That piece of paper is not available. It's not a piece of paper. What it is in that link that I sent you, if you look at it, that site basically starting back in 2000 and I think it was 10, when Domtar Paper shut it down, they started cleaning that site up. And that has every time there was a speck of oil in the ground, they dug it up, they cleaned it, they put new spread and they recorded it. That's what everybody is calling basically the clean site paperwork. It's no documentation says you're authorized to cut it down. It is basically that piece of property of all the different DNR issues and concerns over the last, again, almost 20 some years has been recorded in there. And obviously that has not been updated in the last 10 years because there hasn't anything going on in the property. So there is no piece of paper that says it's clear and free. That's what's out there. That gentleman did obviously recommend that, that site should have another, basically a site plan, go look at it, I'll see what's out there in the ground and all that stuff, which obviously there's a grants out there that the village, our DEMI could apply for to check the site to see what kind of contaminations there's out there. So one of the pieces of that puzzle is for DMI to come up with a DNR permit. And from what I got out of that conversation, there's nobody gonna sign a DNR permit because it hasn't been looked at in 10 years. And again, if they get it, that's up to them. That's not the village's responsibility, but I don't see that happening. And then the second one was past grants. Obviously, again, I'm not here to throw anybody at the table for sure. Back in 2010 to 2014, the village, the EIDL grant, if you click the bottom link, that was a grant that the village basically went in joint partnership with DMI and the DNR to redo Edwards Avenue, to break the power from back there was hydros, the power need to be done. We worked with Alliant Energy to break the power. And then obviously we were working with DMI to get the demo down and other things. That was all part of this EIDL grant. The EIDL grant, was sent to them to do the streets, the power, the demo grants, all that. And the village received $1 million to,
WEDC?
yes,
WEDC.
the village received $1 million, basically applied for $1 million grant to do that. The village, we did the road, we did the electrical, we've got invoices paid for, it was like $950,000, we were reimbursed. But in that letter that we signed, we were gonna hold DMI accountable for doing a lot of activities, demos and other things.
About $10 million worth of stuff.
Which, the DNR they were nice to us, but basically said, we're not interested in doing work with the village or DMI because you guys were giving funds years ago and did not fulfill both sides of your need, both sides of the contract. They do understand that DMI, their situation, they're quite aware of DMI. And they said they've done some history. They see other sites in the state that they've done and other things. But at this point, they're not interested in doing any EIDL grant, WEDA grants with the village of Port Edwards, and understand it, right or wrong. But again, I'm not here to, we move on. At least we know the answers and we can be better from that. There is the administration building, obviously is owned by Wood County that we talk about, the one in front. We did have a conversation on that. There is possibility that Wood County and the DNR could do some grant work for that. There was actually a grant, and I said after the first year we'd get together, there's a grant that they could apply for. And obviously that project is substantially expensive. They let it roll over 3 years. You apply for it, get some funds, hold it and go over. So there was some positive things coming out of maybe the admin building with Wood County and the DNR to work on that. So there was some good information there. But my third question was, can we get any money out of the village for demo and work? And at this point, we need to play some kiss up, and I guess I'll do the best I can to try to do that here in the next, time frame. So, and then Rick may have something to add. He was, like I said, in the conversation also.
Yeah, good explanation. WEDC really doesn't, because they were part of that first $1 million grant, they really don't want to do anymore. They will look at the working with the Wood County and to try to develop the admin research building. So that's what he's talking about. The voluntary program that Domtar got into, basically they did some testing and they did a phase 1, phase 2 remediation study that would have to be redone going forward. They would like to see that before you can apply for any of these WAMs or other funding. There were 2 acronyms that I learned. So that would have to be basically starting over to do phase one, phase two remediation, so they can build on that to know that any developer comes in. Because it is 10 years old, so otherwise, good coverage for the call.
Like I've said before, we don't own those properties. So I don't wanna see any more grant money, any more free money brought. Having the village apply for, because that's happened. And we're at a loss. We're still in the same spot now as we were before. It's, if they want grant money to develop their property, those grants are for the development of that property, the economic development grant, all that other stuff is for developing. We're not to that stage yet.
Right.
That's putting the cart before the horse before the cart. Whatever. We're planning for something that it's not even there yet. So they have to move on the demo before we can
Correct.
go and get grant.
Correct.
So.
And I think what the point he's bringing up is the idle site grant that was given $1 million was actually written for a total of $11 million. $10 million was DMI putting the demo in and all of that stuff. So that was part of the agreement and it was broken. And so we're kind of.
We lost that.
Yep.
But they did not receive it. DMI did not receive $10 million.
No.
Okay.
It was $1 million grant that was given to us and we did the work, like
Yeah.
he said. But part of that grant being given to us was DMI gonna do $10 million worth of work. So the whole, and they did not put that $10 million. Yeah.
So I have a specific question about that because one of the closure documents sent by DNR said that they considered in 2012, considered the former Domtar Port Edwards Mill production area site closed. And then it has a whole section on continuing obligations. Were those the things that DMI didn't do? Because it even said, even after closure, here are a list of things that you are obligated to do. Are those the things that,
I don't know what you're looking at. I know that in the contract that he sent out, it had the DMI responsibilities and it was like $3 million for demo and then a whole bunch of other things they needed to do to roll up to $11 million of part of that contract.
these continuing obligations were after closure. Groundwater contamination is present above NR 140, blah, blah, blah. Enforcement standards, residual soil contamination exists, pavement in buildings are,
That may be for the voluntary environmental program.
it wasn't
Sure.
voluntary,
Well-
it was required.
Well,
I'm just asking,
the
is that what,
environmental, they went into it voluntarily to try to get the free and clear sign with it, and I don't understand all the details. I was part of that,
Two
but
separate things, where you, basically you are correct. There is stuff on site that they were told to do
correct.
back and then, and again, but that wasn't part of the grant, that was nothing part of the
the
grant.
grant, no, I
Grant
understand
are
that.
two different things, but you are
And we
correct.
were responsible for making them do that? Is that?
We went in, we
Oh,
signed
that's the
we
grant
signed a contract, the Idle grant, the Village of Port Edward signed a contract with Idle. DNR, and basically to do the street, to do the power, to do site cleanup and all these things. We
You did that.
did the road and all that, but we were working with the DMI to do all that, but we never succeeded.
EMI did not sign the contract, the village did.
Stating we were going to hold them accountable.
That's why you're
to do the work.
saying. No more.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
And we can, I
Point of
think you sent out that
clarification.
information. I mean,
Yeah, it's too much stuff. Brent, if anyone has any questions, we can discuss it,
you know, we can, I guess if you haven't seen it, then we should get that in your
Well,
hand.
that's right.
It shows what we were liable for. We signed the contract and we were liable for something.
I understand now the difference between what I was reading and the grant
Correct.
Yeah,
contract.
the last tab in that email is sent way in the bottom. There was a tab. If you open up,
I missed that one.
if you slide down that email, way in the tab, it actually gives you the agreement, the Idle agreement.
Thank you very much. I will do that.
Any
I'm
trouble?
busted for not
Okay.
having got
And that was
that.
Bill Terry that signed that contract, right?
Yes, previous administrators.
Previous administrator. So to put a timeline on that, I mean, that was 8 administrators.
Yeah.
I understand.
He left, it was, that road project was getting finished at the time of administrator changes, we all remember.
So, yeah, we uncovered some other information. We wanted to share that. So thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate, giving the context. Helpful.
Okay, anything else on DMR phone call? DNR phone call? Update on YMCA property. You wanna go first and then,
Yeah, so obviously, there's a lot of talk on the street and talk is talk. I don't like repeating anything unless it comes from the horse's mouth, I guess. So, I reached out to the president of the YMCA board and I said, hey, I'd like you to come here. We'll open for everybody. Looking for Wednesday, December 11th, and this would be for any board member that would want to come down here. I'd like to, with their schedule, I'd like to do it early afternoon, if it's a 3:30, 4 o'clock. Again, they're not gonna have a lot of details. I mean, they're still in their works. What they're gonna do, but at least they'll come here and you can hear from them what they know as of today, right? I mean, we're not gonna
Yeah,
pry on them, but let them speak so that we don't misinterpret any kind of what's happening with the YMCA in Port Edward. So I guess I'd like you guys to pick a time on December 11th. And again, we'll put that as a meeting of the whole. Any board member, anybody wants to come, anybody comes, nobody comes, whatever. And we'll let them, the agenda just be a simple, YMCA property discussion. And that'll be the end of
Do
that.
they have any data or details they wanna give out? Or are we just gonna look at each other and just talk about the building?
are you done?
Yeah, yeah.
I can add, I sat down, I called up Tim Burkhauser, who's the CVO, Chief Volunteer Officer, so he's the president of the board, basically. What they can share is, they're still deciding on what they want to do. The one thing they do know that as of, January 1st, 24-hour access is gonna be opened up in Rapids. So they're looking at that information is gonna go public on 12/1.
And shutting this one down.
Yes, the boxing club's gonna be out, everything's gonna be out. They're gonna basically, after the first of the year, shut that
Shut it.
facility down. They do understand, and this is 99%, they do understand they can't leave that in the condition it is. So they're looking at funds, how they can try to get that raised. That hasn't been decided, don't know where that's going, but that's what they're looking at doing. So they're looking at, moving 24-hour access here and any, facility, any occupancy in that main building is not gonna be there. The gymnasium, basically where the gymnastics was, is right now, is still planning to be there, so.
I guess my opinion for the meeting would be to make it productive, if there was anything that could be brought out. I mean, if they're gonna share that on December 1st, that's them. If they don't have a plan or any idea what, I don't see a sense in sitting down and having a discussion.
Yeah, don't think the village should be the one to say I'd like them to come and say they're closing it, because I know that's a lot. I don't think we should have our name behind the Port Edwards board and
No,
saying
we
they're
don't want-
closing the Y.
We don't want none of that.
100% agree with that,
Yeah.
and this is just sharing of information, that is not, it's to be determined by the YMCA. I'll clarify that, making sure that everybody understands that the YMCA is determining what they want to do and when they want to do it. So,
I guess it'd be more productive to have a conversation after they kind of figure out the path or the direction that they want to go.
yeah, there,
Is my 2
to
cents.
me, there's one simple question that's not necessarily one meening. What's the plan to get a plan? Because what I hear is that this has been a long discussion and what's the process to bring it to a close and.
the previous work, and I'm actually on the committee with the Y to help with that.
Mhm.
The previous discussions were, the first one, we toured the facility to find out the shape it's in. Then they have discussions on potential options. What are the needs for that building? 24-hour access. They decided they wanted 24-hour access somewhere because that's the only 24-hour access. So they decided, what are the options there? They picked an option and they're pursuing that. They're pursuing the 24-hour access at Rapids. So there is stuff in the works because they realize that the cost of trying to refurbish that, and they're taking feedback from the community, to refurbish that. If you got $5 million, they could put it back in here and they could keep it open, but they don't have that money available to them. So they were getting all the costs and estimates to do these various things.
And is
so they
it,
picked,
is that another year process to kind of come to a conclusion about what to do? Or is it a
once they-
timeline?
that's what things that they could probably share with that. I don't have privy, and that's not coming from me.
Yeah.
They do want to work with the village though. Tim has been reaching out to me and they want to try to work with the village because it's, as this property goes forward, what do they do with it? Because the way it's stated right now, if they don't do anything on that property, it goes back to the Alexanders, but the
Yeah, they don't
Alexanders
want it
don't
either.
want it. It may be available for the village. May, I don't know. So
Yeah.
that's where the village will get inside. It is something the village may be interested in, not whatever.
Sorry. I think we should at least set the meeting, that way it's on, all in our calendars, and then they can bring all that information that they do have to us. I mean, that's a couple of weeks out yet. They might have a couple more
Yeah.
things by then. I don't want it to be a last minute thing. I want it to be planful.
Yes.
So I think we set the meeting and then if they just come and just tell us what we know, then that's it. But then we can also just still get that kind of
Yep.
checked off of our list of, okay, we had the initial meeting. What do the follow-up?
Yes,
Meetings
and
look
the
like.
communication, I bring it to this committee, so we as the village knows that December 1st date is to their members and they need to put that forward.
Mhm,
It should not be coming from this committee.
right, no. I think, yeah,
Yeah, so that's not common knowledge.
No. It will be published to their members. It's going out to their members.
Yeah,
So,
does will my fob still work? It's a big place. Did I still?
they gotta work out the details. They're
Yeah.
probably getting new fobs different because it's a different system.
Yeah, I'm just
That's
kidding. Yeah,
their,
I'm just
their,
messing with you.
so.
So what time do you wanna do that meeting?
on
On the 11th.
the 11th, if we could do 4:30, I know it's kind of a struggle for some people to get here at 3:30. I know Nick has gotta work.
4:30 is fine with me. You can pick one. We have our board meeting. No, we don't. That's the week before.
Yep.
4:30.
Just to make
Okay.
sure everybody can.
So that was the long discussion on it, but it's important. So, any other discussion on that?
And again, that'll be the meeting of the whole. It'll just be a quick agenda and
Single
That's it.
agenda item.
yes, Betsy will run, just like a meeting of the whole run it.
Okay, thank you. Any old business? Any new business? I don't have anything. Correspondence, I did not receive anything. Future agenda items, I have 160 Market Ave update, Cyber One update, EMI update, and the YMCA update. The next meeting is the third one.
The 18th.
18th, I think. December 18th. Are you okay with that?
Mhm.
At 4:30. Is that okay?
Mhm.
Okay. And with no objections, I will adjourn the meeting at 5:18. Thank you, everyone, for your input.